Hey, good morning. Um, Come on in, sit down, have a seat. Stay a minute. Let's have a conversation. Um, I do so like to talk. So I sitting here. It's first day of spring break for the kids, so I didn't actually have to get up early. Um, get anybody ready for school. It's been kind of quiet around the house. Everybody's still in bed. It's kind of nice. Trying to decide what to make for breakfast. I think it's going to be French toast today. But I don't have to make it early because everybody's still asleep. It's kind of cool. Um, so while I was sitting here uh, watching the news, I don't watch a lot of TV. I do watch a lot of YouTube, but as far as TV goes, I always watch the news. If for nothing else, the weather. But this morning, one of the topics they touched on the national news was a lady that I was not aware of that even existed, um, who was kind of a Hidden Figures woman. Now, if you don't know what Hidden Figures is, it's a great movie. I highly recommend it, based on a true story, and it had to do with three women of color in the NASA program and how absolutely amazing they are. Uh, some of the strongest women I have ever seen in my life are those women in that movie. Um, that well, I should say the characters. Like I said, it's based on a true story. It is a true story. It's not based on anything. It is a true story. Very well told movie. But this one is about a lady named Ray Montague, um, who I don't know a whole lot about yet. But I did. I'm going to order her book probably as soon as I'm done shooting this video. It's called Overnight Code, and uh, Ray was born in 1935. She passed away in 2018, but she overcame diversity. Um, she even said, I watched a brief past interview with her, and she said, her mom told her when she was younger um, that she already had strikes against her going forward, one being black, one being female, and the third strike being that she was going to get the education of a colored person, um, which just it blows my mind that that was ever a thing. But it was. That's the reality of it, and shame on us as a society for allowing that to happen. But all the same, she uh, she goes to college, um, gets a degree, bachelor of science degree. Wasn't allowed to take engineering classes because they didn't allow people of color to take engineering classes, which is crazy. But she ends up getting a job with NASA as a clerk, typist, where she works in a room where there's a supercomputer, and she watches these gentlemen run this supercomputer to help. Uh, I don't I don't remember offhand what exactly it was they did, but one day they were all sick. Well, where she worked right next to this, literally right next to the computer, um, she learned how to use it. Well, when they were all sick, she jumped in, helped out, and in the process, created the first computer generated design for a naval ship. And her plan has been used ever since. That's pretty freaking awesome. So anyhow, I'm really looking forward to reading her book, or her biography. I should say it's not her book, but it's her biography. The book just came out, and like I said, she passed away 3 years ago. So anyhow, I was yesterday while I was at work, I was talking to one of my associates, and who one of my younger associates who asked me what my opinion was on teen pregnancy. I know it's kind of a random topic, but I told her I didn't have one. I mean, I guess in that aspect, it happens, you know, but I don't really have an opinion either way, I guess, on, what it was. But here is what I told her. I said, well, I will say that becoming a parent, I think, especially at that age, presents a lot of challenges. So, it led me to think, which is pretty much today's topic, is, you know, what is parenting? What does it involve? What are some of the aspects? Not all of them, because I'm here to tell you, even though I have 4 children and so far I've been very successful in raising them, I don't know everything. Every child is a little different. Every child requires a slightly different parenting technique. As I'm here to tell you, out of my 4 children, not one of them are the same. Some of them are, some things of parenting are basic. Um, you got to feed them, you got to diaper them, you got to, as I get older, you got to buy them clothes. You still have to feed them. They require, a lot of attention to some aspects, whether it's good or bad, whether it's, praise or criticism. You know, there's a lot to go on. So I got to thinking, let's do a video about parenting, so that way maybe some of my younger friends who might be at that curious age, we'll say, kind of know what they could potentially get into, and what comes with parenting. Like I wrote down some things. 'Cause like I said, if I don't, I won't remember. Which we're working on that. I go to my 3rd trip to the doctor here in another tomorrow. So we'll just keep going. If I get anything significant, I will share it with you guys, because that's what I do. This channel is so you can get to know me and what I'm about, my life experiences. Um, so if you become a parent, or when you become a parent, doesn't matter the age. Whether you are a young 18-year-old teen parent, or you're a 30-something. Parenting doesn't change, in general. You still have to hit those basic steps. You still have to, feed them, clothe them, nurture them, provide them a safe environment. Those are just automatic givens, and those are just the basics. Um, as they get older, and let me touch on this real quick. I mean, I have it in my notes, but now, like my son, and not all 4 of me and Chris aren't the biological parents of all 4 of our children. Okay, my son is from a previous marriage. My oldest daughter is from a previous relationship that Chris had. And then our 2 youngest, Sarah and Abby, are ours. So, that being said, when it comes to being a parent, and this is directed towards, let's say, a parent, male or female, who you may not be living together. You may not be the parent that's there 7 days a week. It is still of the utmost importance that you are in that young daughter or son's life. Now, me and my first wife, even though we weren't together, through a majority of, our sons growing up, I still was very much a part of his life. That's important. A child needs 2 parents. So if you want to go and play, so to speak, and that is the end result, remember, this applies to you too when it comes to parenting. It can't be, and like I said, that goes both ways, boys and girls, because I know plenty of guys out there who are raising kids who are the main parent, so this goes both ways. You still have to be involved in that child's life. And that doesn't just include financial supporting. That includes, being there for birthdays, celebrating, important moments in their life, especially with today's technology. The first steps, they can be recorded. First day of school, it's important that you're there. graduation when they get older. You want to be a constant in that life. Don't be a deadbeat parent. Okay, that solves nothing, and it makes the world look down upon you. You took on this responsibility. Whether you knew it or not, you took on this responsibility. So, that being said, I just wanted to throw that out there because that's very important. Me and my first wife, we'll call her Jenny because that's her name, are still the dearest of friends, after almost 30 years. And we decided that, even though maybe we didn't work, that didn't mean that we should stop raising our child together. And we did, we called each other still call each other for advice, thoughts, things like that. That should never stop. Even Taylor's dad is still somewhat in her life, and that's good. I mean, and she's grown now, but they still talk, and he still helps out when he can. So those are important aspects. It helps create balance with the child, your son or daughter. Sorry, child sounds so informative, or informative. Generic. Cool. So, some things to keep in mind when you have a child, right off the rip. I mean, right off the rip. Not even when the day they're born, although that's a big part of it, but even before they're born, your life is going to change. Because now, I mean, as that mother to be, you are thinking not only about yourself and your well-being, but the well-being of the child that's inside of you. And as the father, you're thinking about the mother to be. How are you going to take care of this child? That's important. Whether it be financially, emotionally, whatever. And you need to start to learn how, if you haven't already, to plan ahead. That's a life skill you really kind of need before that even becomes a thought, is how to plan ahead to take care of things. But in those few months before your son or daughter has come to be, you need to start talking to aunts, uncles, other siblings, your parents. You need to start forming a good support group before that child even comes. Because I mean, you can always say, well, you could plan ahead for a child. Well, the best planning doesn't always work. But, before that even becomes a thought of having a child, but let's be honest, I mean, most people, when they have children, they don't always, I won't say most people, but some people, when they have children, they weren't planning to have children. So you've got from the time that you find out that you're about to be parents to pretty much the day your son or daughter is born to kind of figure out some things. It might be, do I need to get a job? Unfortunately, that has to be a thought. Do I have someone to help me, take care of my child, and if so that way I can get a job or continue my education. What if you're still in college, or whatever? The importance of a support system. Like I said, I've got grandparents, siblings, parents, aunts, uncles, all that. And now, as long as you're both involved with your son or daughter's development, even if you're not together, that can still take, you can still help each other out in that aspect, as long as you're not abusing one's boundaries, maybe, or taking advantage of that, but, because remember, when you become a parent, I'm not going to say life stops. It doesn't stop. It takes a different road. That's all. you may not be able to go out with your friends on a whim. You know, you won't be able to necessarily just hop in the car or walk over to the store and go. Remember, you've got somebody else that you got to take with you. So when your friends call up and go, dude, you want to go out? You know, we're about to go get beers or whatever. We're about to go play video games at so-and-so's house. You want to come? That may not be viable for you. You know, you made a decision somewhere down the road that this was going to happen. You were going to be a parent. You know, now it's always better to try to plan to have children. But if you're planning to have children, if you want to work a plan, don't base it on when we're financially ready or able. That will never happen. You're never truly financially able to have children, with very few exceptions, you know. But even financially, it isn't always the answer. Are you mentally, physically, you know, emotionally ready to have? Those are things you have to think about when you're planning to have children. You know, so yeah, your life is going to change a little, at least for a little while, and then by a little while, I mean a few years. You know, because initially you are your child's world. You know, you are their support group, you know, so to speak. You and your immediate family, your significant other and their immediate family, or, you know, even like I say, even if you're not together, both sides play a role. So you have to think about that. You have to think about, you know, if you are still in school, who's going to be able to watch your son or daughter when you're in school? You know, because college, especially college, it swings, you know, left and right. You could be, depending on when your classes start and stop, it's all over the place. So that's an important thing to think about. You know, or do you have a job? What kind of job do you have? Is it a standard 9 to 5 job, which are very hard to come by anymore, but is that what it is? Or is it something like with me, when, you know, sometimes I go in at 6 in the morning, sometimes I go in at 4 in the evening. Yeah, these are things you need to think about. Communication becomes a real issue, or a real necessity issue. Well, it could be an issue depending on your communication skills with your other. You have to look at that. You know, planning ahead, even with social events, you need to be able to communicate that with someone. You know, let's say, you know, you are a single parent. Let's say dad or mom is a deadbeat and just ran off. You know, never heard from again. That puts you in kind of a predicament. You know, but it's not undoable as long as you have your support network there, right? Where that runs into kind of a problem is if you have no support network. Then that's a whole different ballgame, and that's a struggle. But it doesn't stay that way forever. Let me tell you that. You know, it's a good little while. You know, you're going to, you know, your main focus, and it might be for years, will be raising your child. You know, taking care of, making their needs first, not their wants, but their needs. You know, and some parents may not completely agree with this, but I truly feel there are only a handful of things a child needs. They need food. They need clothing. Depending on the stage of their life, they need diapers or formula. They need love. You know, they need hugs and kindness and being cuddled when they're little. As they get older, they need direction. You know, love will be the one constant. Now, with love, that doesn't mean that we spoil them. You know, they don't need laptops, you know, or high-end laptops. They almost anymore in today's society, you need a laptop, or some form of computer. You know, they don't need expensive clothes. You They don't need designer brand. They just need clothes. They don't need McDonald's 5 nights a week. They need a good meal. So you need to meet those needs. So that's going to be your focus. Like I said, it may be for years, because there will come a time, and I've experienced this with 3 of my 4 so far, where you're not going to be their world. They're going to get friends. They're going to have social activities outside of the house. There's a lot more. They start to become them, young adults, just like you did. So it's not forever. You'll always be a parent. The burden just lessens a little bit when it comes to what your time, just your time. Because I know, even with my children that are grown, I still talk to them. I still give them advice when asked. But I'm not there every day. I'm not having to tell them, no, don't do this. And the rules change. On how to parent when they become adults. Now you can be a friend. You can go, and not, or a mentor. That right there is a big thing I noticed with a lot of parents that I know, that they're all young parents with very young children. I think they think they're going to be their child's best friend. I think best friend is a bad thing to be. Friend, yes. And the reason why I say friend, but not best friend, is because a friend, like even a good friend, will correct you when you're doing wrong. They will give you sound advice. They will be everything that a mentor should be. They will guide you. As a parent, you are guiding, you are directing, you are correcting when they're wrong, praising when they're good, and when they do it right. So that's a mentor. Or at most a friend. You're not their best friend. Best friend can get you in a lot of trouble. It's important. And then when you get through that. You can even be their superhero to some extent. You can show them, the importance of life and how to have great skills and take pride in what they're doing. So you want to be a mentor or a hero, not so much, best friend. There's just too much that can go wrong there, in the long run. You also have to keep in mind as a parent that it's not a mini you. They are their own person. None of my children are me. They all have different aspects of me, because as you teach them, learn, and develop them into fine, outstanding adults, they pick up on the things you teach them, but that doesn't mean that they're me or I've never once said, oh, well, you should go do this because I didn't get to do it. I think it would be amazing. Let them figure it out on their own. Just because you're a doctor or a scientist doesn't mean they want to be a doctor or a scientist. They may want to be an artist. They may want to go to beauty school. You don't know. They may just want to bartend. Awesome. Bartending's the way to go. Love your children no matter what they do. Support them no matter what they do. Remember, you are their future support network. The importance of parenting, is to teach them life skills, values, morals, standards. And that all starts with both parents being in their life, and family being in their life. Like I said, doesn't mean that you and your other have to be together by any means, but come to the realization that you both need to be there for that child, no matter what you do. and that could include, say, yeah, you work, and on Thursdays you may need a little help, with somebody watching your son or daughter. So then you can call up the other parent and say, and this is, your schedule is going to change. So this is an advanced thing, communication. You say, hey, look, Aaron, 2-3 weeks, I'm going to start working Thursdays. Is there any way you can help me out on Thursdays? And hopefully they say yes, but you got to be prepared for what if they say no. What if, well, no, I want to, but I already work Thursdays. You know this. Yeah, I thought I'd ask anyhow. So then, do you turn to another support, person in your group? You could. That's where aunts and uncles. That's where, your parents, their grandparents, those all come into play. A good friend, a good trusted friend that you have. Those are where the things like that are coming into importance. It may not, very rarely, and I won't say this is horrible parenting, but to call up somebody and say, hey, can you come and watch my child so I can go party? That may not be in the best interest. Now, if you know in advance, let's say, you're talking to your friends and they're like, hey, let's all get together for dinner, and go out, and, maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, or hey, next Wednesday or whatever, to give yourself time and the people you need to contact time, to be able to plan around that. Your support group needs to plan. Planning is huge in parenting. Last minute is always hectic and crazy. Then it could go over better. So I'm not saying that you can't go out and still be you, or be a couple, and not just mom and dad. No parent just stays home and does nothing. But parent, you still have to maintain you. You just have to better plan for it. The days of doing it last minute at the moment are probably gone. Now as they get older, like I said, even on days when Sarah and Abby are in school, Monday through Friday, gone to school. We get them to school. That leaves us 7 hours that me and Chris can just be me and Chris. Sarah is to the age where she likes to go out and do things with her friends. So when she goes out and does things with her friends and grandma calls up and says, hey, can I borrow Abby for a little while? Just want to hang with her. Or can I come over and hang with Abby for a little while? Because she wants to see her grandchildren. Great. You come over and hang out. Can we go get some dinner real quick and be me and Chris? So it does change. It's just those first few years are the hardest. All right. Well, that's pretty much what I got to say on that. I hope you get something out of that. There's a lot to being a parent. There is a lot to think about before you become a parent. And I hope you take some of that for granted when you decide to go out as a young couple and be a couple. And you all know what I'm talking about. Because that's the way it becomes. You don't lose you as a person. You just turn left, instead of keep going forward. It's a wonderful path, but it's a hard one. One last thing to think about on the school issue is, remember, you have to find time not only to take care of that child, your son or daughter, but you also have to find time to do your schoolwork, go to class, do your homework. All that comes into play too. But those are things to think about at any rate. So that would be kind of how I would have answered her question. That is how I did answer the question. It wasn't what's my opinion on it. My answer was, here's what it takes to be a parent. please think about that before you make a quick decision that could have you turning left. I love you. Tell somebody else you love them. It'll make their day a whole lot better, I promise. And we'll talk to you later. You guys have a great Tuesday. All right?